Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your service to our nation. This year's Department of Defense requests an $842 billion budget, one of the largest budgets in history. Now, despite the massive size of this budget request, the committee is already receiving letters from various parts of DoD saying that they need billions of dollars more. DoD calls these unfunded priority lists. I call them wish lists, and I'm concerned about how they distort our budget process. So, Secretary Austin, if I could, let me ask this directly. Are you comfortable with the figure in the President's proposed budget that it is sufficient to meet our defense and national security objectives?
I am, Senator. As you know, we made this budget request based upon our strategy. Our request is directly linked to the capabilities that we need to execute our strategy. And we spent a lot of time on that. I've asked commanders and service chiefs to make sure that they go after warfighting capability and readiness in their base budget. And for the most part, we've done that. But again, we are required by law.
I understand. So we're going to go there. We're going to go there, Mr. Secretary. Now, Secretary Gates understood that leaders at DoD can always find a gap or a requirement to justify asking for what he called however many billions dollars more you want. He reduced wish lists by about 90%, and he was able to do this during the surge in Afghanistan. Secretary Austin, you have a unique perspective here because before you were Secretary of Defense, you were the commander of a major combatant command, a job that is now held by the people who are asking for unfunded priorities. When Secretary Gates cut these unfunded lists down, you were commanding general of U.S. forces in Iraq. Secretary Austin, did our national security suffer when Secretary Gates cut down the service wish lists?
I can say that while we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, we, based upon support of Congress, we had what we needed to be able to prosecute our operations, and so we didn't go we didn't want for much of anything. So.
Okay, so let's talk then about the budget process. Each combatant commander thinks about how they could spend more money than you have allocated to them in this process that you describe. I assume these combatant commanders act in absolute good faith, but they have a narrow perspective. Secretary Austin, in putting together the overall budget, you have to weigh our global national security priorities. Do the commanders submitting these wish lists have to do the same?
They are primarily focused on their region and what they would like to have for their region in order to be successful. So, but again,
I take that as a no.
Right.
Yes. All right. As my colleagues on this committee are well aware, I've been using these budget posture hearings to ask combatant commanders, folks who occupy the roles like the one you used to serve, about these lists, and almost all of them have defended their requests, although the justifications vary. 3 of them said they needed the items on this list to address unexpected threats that couldn't be considered in the budget process. But these same commanders often repeat the same requests year after year after year, suggesting that if there were a real need, they would have worked it into the underlying budget. Secretary Austin, does DoD have sufficient tools to address emerging threats without relying on the unfunded priorities list?
We do, and again, we account for that as we built the budget.
Okay, and one last question. Do you support removing the statutory requirement to send Congress these lists every year? And if so, are you confident that we could do so without jeopardizing national security?
I would support that, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I would also like to submit a letter for the record from Undersecretary McCord supporting my bill with Senator King, Senator Lee, and Senator Braun to end the statutory requirement for these lists As he notes in the letter, these lists are, quote, not an effective way to illuminate our joint priorities. We don't let any other part of federal government behave this way, and it is for a good reason. The budget process requires making tough choices. I appreciate that the Secretary leads in that, and I would like to submit this for the record, Mr.
Without objection.
Thank you.